So does anybody know what the 3 best words any presenter can say that just brings people to the attention? And in conclusion. So, but we're getting close. So we'll get you guys to the bar and we'll get some. The music's going to be loud. I'm going to apologize right now. It's loud. Is that all right? The drummer's going, yeah, it's going to be really loud. Okay, here we go. So I was looking through some of my old APICS study material, and I came across this book. So I did a poll, and I went on the Facebook, and I said, what do you think the name of this book is? And these were the top 5 titles for this book. The number 5 was ERP Made Easy. Number 4, Secrets to a Great Golf Swing. Number 3, Achieve an Accurate Forecast. Number 2, Understanding Women. I didn't make this up. These aren't my words. And number 1 was Marking an APICS exam. So without further ado, let me go. Oh, how do I go back here? Is Eric here? Oh, here we go. I think Eric's going to kind of condense what's in that book. Oh, he's stopping by the bar, too. Yeah. I'll have a Corona. Seriously. No, seriously. Okay. Did you have slides?
I don't have slides.
Okay, good. Well,
Nobody. Is this on? Oh, there you
Yeah.
go. Oh, it's all automatic. I was a little concerned because I had to go make a quick trip to the little room out there, and as I was walking out of the men's room, I realized I was mic'd.
Oh, okay.
So if you heard the crying, you know what it was. It's funny. I was just checking some quick notes on the way up here, and this thing popped into my phone while I was here, and it says, "I've always wanted to walk up to a stranger, hand him a briefcase, and whisper, 'You know what to do,' and walk away." I thought, cool. I'm going to try that tomorrow. Andy asked me to speak to you very briefly, and then they're taking bets on whether I could actually achieve that part of it, about scaled scores in APICS exams. Now, somebody asked earlier, and I think it was Ann had asked, how many people here have tried APICS exams? How many of you have, applause, right? How many of you have sat for an APICS exam? Okay, now how many of you have sat for an APICS exam since we went to computer-based testing? Okay, so still a few of you. Okay, how many of you actually know how well you scored at the end of it? Liars. Do you know what you actually achieved, what your grade was? Yeah, see, nobody really understands that. So Andy asked me to help demystify that. So I was going to talk a bit about how an APICS cut score works. Okay, so I'm going to do this really quickly, and we're going to talk a bit about the process to get to a cut score. Now, first I want to explain that the cut score is where we pass, right? That's where we cut it off. You're below that number, you fail. You're above that, you pass. Real simple, right? Now, the trick is, how do you determine what that should be? And we have a very scientific process for doing this at APICS. And we start out with something called a minimally qualified candidate. So a minimally qualified candidate is the dumbest person that you would let have a certification. Okay. Okay, so you start out with, who's the dumbest person we'd let have a certification? Now, I took part in the cut score, and I think I was their poster child for it. So, okay, so what do we give? What do we expect a minimally qualified person to know, to understand about the concepts? We don't expect people to be geniuses and know everything about the body of knowledge to be able to pass. That's not a reasonable expectation because very few of us would achieve that. So what is it we expect a minimally qualified person to be able to do? So we get a group of people together, and they come from a variety of backgrounds. We've got people from different cultural backgrounds, different language backgrounds, different ethnic backgrounds, different business backgrounds, different roles in business, different industries. We get consultants, academics, and people who work for a living. We get them all together in a room, and we use this diverse group of people to try and answer this question. So we go through a bunch of statistical analysis. We do we actually get to write the test ourselves, take the test, go through the questions, try to understand just where this point should be, where we should be able to separate a pass and fail for this minimally qualified person. And we spend hours doing this. And then we get to the end of that and we say, okay, now let's go on to the second step, because we use 2 different methodologies to do this. And the second methodology, we kind of sit around and say, what do you feel? Do you think it should be here? Do you think it should be there? And we just kind of state opinions. And then, we take an average of the 2. There you go. Now you got a cut score. And it's really a lot more scientific than that. But what it ends up being is we are trying to figure out what is that minimum point that we expect people to be. And it is a very involved process. And at the end of that, we end up with a starting point. And Ann had mentioned how from that point on, there's a lot of statistical analysis and a lot of psychometric evaluations done on the exam forms and on the questions to make sure that everything stays valid after the fact, once we've determined what that starting point is. At the end of all that, they translate this into this scaled score. And I remember I was talking to a class full of students not that long ago. I was sitting through a strategic management or resources class covering for somebody else. And I was asking how many people had taken the exams or planned to take the exams. Very few of them were planning to take it. And I asked why. And one person said, well, because you have to have 91% to pass. I was thinking, 91%, okay, who told you that? And they were doing the math. Okay, a pass is on a scaled score, right? Those of you who've done this, you know the numbers, right? The scale goes to 330 and you need 300 to pass. So if I do that math, 330 divided by 300, that's about 91%. Wasn't that impressive? I did that right off the top of my head. I cheated. I actually did that on my phone before I came up. And this was the way they came up with it. And it's not really that way. And I remember asking one time, well, what does that really equate to? And the answer was, well, we could tell you, but then we'd have to kill you. So they don't really give that away. But at the end of all this, you end up with multiple exam forms, right? Yeah, so we have a few different exams. Just to mix the questions, some end up being a little harder, some end up being a little easier. And we use these scaling to equalize it. So an exam that has a combination of questions that tends to be more difficult might actually require a slightly lower pass than one that has a higher breakpoint or a group of easier questions. So they try to equalize this. I guess at the end of all this, the bottom line is we're not really in a position to say 300 equates to X percentage or anything. Just that if you're doing these exams, know the material, be comfortable with the material, and go and pass. Because a couple of years down the line, when you're presenting your resume to a potential employer and they see CPIM on your resume, they're not going to say, oh, by the way, what was your grade? Because nobody really cares. Hopefully I've helped to confuse the whole scaled score and cut score process a little more for you. Those of you who are here for the meeting tomorrow, the volunteer group, you're actually going to get a better answer to this question from Ann when she explains it. And I'm going to leave it with you.